When India launched Operation Sindoor, it not only showcased India's precision and resolve, but also laid bare the Western media's double standards, aided by Pakistan's propaganda. India presented clear, verifiable proof after every strike, yet the propaganda carried on. Tonight, I'm joined by Tom Cooper, Austrian historian of aerial warfare, analyst, a man who's written 560 books that he's co-authored, over 1,000 articles on this. Tom Cooper, thank you very much for joining me on the News Hour tonight. And Tom Cooper, we've been following you here in India, and you virtually declared that India had a clear-cut victory in the skies. Could you elaborate that for our viewers tonight on why do you think air warfare that we saw between India and Pakistan over the last 3 or 4 days, why do you think India had an advantage and where did Pakistan fail?
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me to this interview. Nice to be with you. As for your question, it's relatively simple. In military terms, it is so that Pakistan attempted to hit back on India with attack UAVs, with artillery missiles, even with ballistic missiles, and essentially this effort has failed because Indian air defenses have shot down the mass of incoming weaponry. And on the other hand, we have seen early on 10th of May, Indian Air Force striking not only Pakistan Air Force bases, but also the both entrances to the Pakistan nuclear weapon storage site at the Mushaf Air Base. This is a part of Sargodha complex. And the fact is, in the military, in the way the military understands warfare, when you start targeting enemy nuclear weapon storage sites, that means you are absolutely sure the enemy cannot hit back. And the reason the enemy cannot hit back, in this case, this enemy is with Pakistan, is that you have managed to overpower enemy's defenses and then to block all the enemy attempts to hit you, in this case, India. Therefore, to strike an enemy nuclear weapon storage site is absolutely, evidence of Indian confidence that it cannot hit back, that Pakistan cannot hit back. And from this point of view, it's a clear-cut victory for India.
So let me ask you, India and Indian Defence Forces have so far given no confirmations on striking any nuclear storage sites. In fact, at a press conference by the Defence Forces, they even jokingly said they didn't know where these existed. I want to ask you, because there is a lot of chatter on radio activity, there is a lot of chatter on social media, on speculation in Western media, on how the American planes actually landed there to take control of the radio activity. How sure are we that we did damage some of their nuclear storage facilities?
There is a video clearly showing hits on entrances, on both entrances to this nuclear storage site, which means this has been confirmed, which means India has hit these entrances. So now, of course, Pakistanis, the few I've talked with, they say no, this has hit entirely, and so on and so on. But I have a strong feeling, if you want, that India is not shooting, wildly missiles around the place where there are nuclear weapons stored. So overall conclusion is, okay, New Delhi does not want to further escalate. And one should keep in mind, Indian generals in particular, that means the top brass of your armed forces, they are stolidly conservative. They are overcautious, actually, in comparison to what the Westerners are doing, what the Russians are doing. They are not playing with such places like nuclear weapon storage sites. That they wouldn't, let anybody randomly shoot missiles in that direction. This is a clear message. We can hit you, and we can hit you where it hurts. So conclusion is simply unavoidable. Pakistan cannot protect its own nuclear weapon storage sites, and Pakistan cannot even protect its air bases. Therefore, India is in position of clear advantage. There is nothing else to add to this. What the official New Delhi is then explaining in this regards, that is left to them, but facts are speaking for themselves.
Do you believe the radioactivity reports that have surfaced today?
I haven't studied them closely yet. I've been busy this morning, excuse me, but point is this: whatever the radioactivity then explains, fact is that the nuclear storage site has been hit, not directly the storage site, but the entrance into the underground complex. It means that most likely the entrance and the exit to this storage site has been cut off. So whatever somebody is now explaining about this, that is, actually irrelevant, because what is relevant is what has happened inside that site. If the Pakistanis cannot enter the site, the storage site, if they cannot reach their nuclear weapons, if they cannot pull them out, put them to use, it's game over. It is as simple as that, really.
Game over. Well, we also have hit 13 Pakistani military targets, including air bases. How much do you think these air bases have been damaged? And do you think this is what brought Pakistan? The combination of the entrance of the nuclear site, the combination with that of the air bases being destroyed, is this what made Pakistan actually bow down and seek American intervention?
The fact is this: in order to hit a military base, whatever kind, you have to disable the enemy, in this case, Pakistan air defenses. Not only ground-based air defenses, but also the capability of the country in question to defend itself from airstrikes. So this means before hitting these military facilities, India has disabled Pakistani air defenses, ground-based air defenses, and then forced the Pakistani Air Force back away from the border in order to be able to send its own aircraft to the border, launch missiles at the Pakistani military bases. So that means that by the time what you have asked, a lot has happened already. And that means that India has already achieved an advantage in the air. Correspondingly, the fact, it doesn't matter how many bases have been hit, whether it's 11, 13, or something else. This fact alone means that Pakistan has already lost the air battle. So now, air bases as such are heavily fortified. Destroying an entire air base, you would need something like 50, 60, perhaps 100 hits on the same facility. As far as I know, this hasn't happened. But what has happened was that Indian Air Force has hit selected points at selected air bases. For example, hangar, where one of Saab 2000 AWACS aircraft was undergoing maintenance. And inside this hangar, it has killed 5 Pakistani Air Force officers and other ranks, and injured 40 others, plus damaged the aircraft. This is what matters. So this is one example where we know specifics because one of Pakistani officers involved has reported it on the social media. We don't know what kind of damage has been caused in most of other cases, but we know that, for example, a C-130 transport was destroyed at Nur Khan Air Base, and so on and so on. Again, details are going to be revealed over the time. But what matters is that Indian Air Force was free enough to strike these bases, and Pakistan couldn't do the same to India. Which means Pakistani deterrent has failed and Pakistani air defenses have failed. And this is, what has then forced Pakistan eventually into sounding a ceasefire, which means there is a hotline between Islamabad and New Delhi, and Pakistani Director General of Military Operations made a call over this hotline and requested a stop of fighting. You don't need more details in order to know what is going on. This is perfectly enough to conclude, okay, Pakistan admitted its defeat, it admitted it cannot continue escalating, it must stop. Or actually, India must stop. So Pakistan has requested India to stop. What American or Western politicians and mass media are reporting in this regard is absolutely irrelevant, because what matters is that Pakistan requested the call. Pakistan made a call and requested the stop. And it wouldn't do so Pakistanis are not, somebody who is going to bow like this and simply admit, we have been defeated. This is nothing they are doing usually. So therefore, conclusions are de facto on hand. You have Pakistani nuclear weapons facility hit by Indian missiles. You have a number of Pakistani air bases hit by Indian missiles, and Pakistani Director of Military Operations calling New Delhi to stop.
Absolutely, that's all that matters. Prime Minister Modi, in his address to the nation yesterday, said that there is a doctrine shift that India has undertaken.
Yes.
Direct retaliation against terrorism, no more strategic restraint, rejection of nuclear blackmail that Pakistan has always held, not just to India but to the world, and no distinction between state and non-state actors. Because we've seen in these airstrikes and the manner in which India has attacked Pakistan, that the terror camps and the Pakistani army have very, very close links. The fact that state funerals were given.
Yes.
And you've said in one of your articles, don't play with us, we can hit you where it hurts, is the message.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think
Yes.
this is a paradigm shift in the doctrine?
Of course it is. It is a fundamental shift in doctrine. So far, I mean, look at the situation. Since 2008 alone, Pakistan has launched over 120 terrorist attacks into India. We've seen attacks on the parliament in New Delhi. We've seen this terrible tragedy in Mumbai. And every time Pakistan came away from it, without actually being hurt. This time it was hurt really badly. And one should keep in mind there is no state and non-state actors. They are so closely intervened in Pakistan. The inter-service intelligence, which is a military intelligence service of Pakistan, it is de facto commanding, controlling, not only financing, organizing, and arming the terrorism. So if you hit the jihadists, you hit the ISIS as well. It's as simple as that again. When India says no more restraint, we are going to hit back if you do this again, it is a clear message. Guys, sorry, but you went too far, and enough is enough. If you do this again, you are going to get hit exactly in the same fashion like on 9th and 10th of May. Ideal solution from Indian point of view. Now let's see if Pakistan is going to learn its own message. That's the question.
Well, that's the big question. How would you look at the weapon systems on both sides? On the one side, we had Pakistan with its HQ-9 being hit. Mm-hmm. On the other, we had BrahMos, we had the Indian Harops, we had the Scalp, we had BrahMos going. How do you rate these weapon systems? Do you look at India versus the Chinese weapon systems that Pakistan had as comparable?
They are directly comparable. They all belong to an older generation of weaponry, actually. Weaponry that is based on technologies and know-how from 1990s and perhaps early 2000s. Of course, with plenty of modifications, but essentially they're matching each other. So what was decisive in this case was intelligence about enemy capabilities and intentions. In this case, India has suffered a failure early on when it expected that Pakistan wouldn't shoot over the border, over the international border, not only over the line of control, but not over the border. And secondly, in what means would Pakistan operate? For example, this PL-15 air-to-air missile of Chinese origin, which turned out to be capable of being used with help of so-called cooperative targeting, which means it's fired by the jet fighter but guided by AWACS aircraft, which stretches its range to 200 kilometers or something, which means Pakistani jets could engage incoming Indian airstrike on 7th of May from deep inside Pakistan. And while Indian aircraft were still deep inside India, and we are talking about 80 kilometers or something inside India. So this was an intelligence failure on the part of Indian intelligence services. Plus, what is even more important, there was a failure on somewhere at the top, political top in India and military top, because decision was taken to strike just the terrorist camps instead of first disabling Pakistani capability to defend itself. But then we have seen how New Delhi has reacted very quickly to Pakistani retaliation. And already on 8th of May, India launched an all-out UAV strike on Pakistani air defenses. This was what it should have done first, actually, by the military arts, so to say. Military arts or military sciences say strike first the enemy ability to defend itself and then strike your actual target. In this case, India did the reverse. But New Delhi has learned this lesson very quickly and turned around and said, okay, air defenses is next, and then we hit the air bases. And ultimate strike was this attack on Mushaf, on nuclear storage site in Mushaf. This was making things clear. So weaponry as such is doing its own job. But what was decisive in this case was decision-making at the top. This was, let's say, not ideal early on. It has caused India some painful losses, unnecessary losses, moreover. But fortunately for India,
they turned it around.
Yeah, they turned it around and attacked and hit Pakistan really very hard.
Well, probably also a message that India wanted to give the world, that it was only looking at ending terror, and that
yes, exactly.
It wasn't a military attack. Maybe it was a calculated risk. How would you rate that possibility?
Calculated risk. I'm considering this, excuse me for expression, typical Indian behavior in such cases. We are democracy. We are not running aggressive wars. We don't want to be too aggressive or appear too aggressive and so on. And it is clear to New Delhi, or should be clear, West is always going to blame India, whatever Pakistan does. So from that point of view, it was wrong to go, striking just the terrorist camps. Indian Air Force should have hit at the Pakistani air defenses right from the start. Expecting the other side to tolerate some kind of written or unwritten rules about shooting over the international border or the line of control, it is very kind and friendly from India, not doubt about this, but Pakistan is not sticking to such rules.
Absolutely, absolutely. Pakistan and its rogue behavior of the past should have taught Indian forces their lesson. But as you said, we follow the rules. They have no rules. They respect no rules. But in the end, if I were to ask you your overall conclusion in one sentence, Pakistan versus India, Operation Sindoor, who do you think won this part of the war?
I said clear-cut Indian victory. When you start striking enemy nuclear weapons facilities, you are so sure of your superiority vis-a-vis the opponent that there is simply no doubt about the outcome or situation or position or whatever else. It is that simple, really. This means I'm absolutely, in this case, Indian armed forces, Indian government, they are absolutely convinced Pakistan can't hit back. It's as simple as that. Because if they would have any doubts, they wouldn't play with such things like nuclear storage sites. You don't play with this. Nobody's doing that. But if you target such a place, then you are absolutely sure Pakistan can't hit back. And this is exactly what's the message or final conclusion.
Does it really show in what Prime Minister Narendra Modi said yesterday? Nuclear blackmail is not going to deter India. Well, that's for you, the viewers, to judge. For now, thank you very much, Tom Cooper, for joining me on the News Hour. Pleasure speaking to you and getting your insights into what this war between India and Pakistan meant.
Thank you very much as well.